This is for game designers who are just starting to think about like, this is the game I want to make. These are a bunch of tools, especially if you're working with a small team or you're looking to get some funding or get an angel investor to kind of help pony up to get things together. This is a set of tools that helps you get your idea raked into piles, get it making sense, and build consensus amongst a small team, right? So this actual document itself is for a non-existent game, but I will go through and give you the examples of how I use these tools and these frameworks to consolidate my design vision around a game. I have this cut up into several different sections of this document, and they kind of start at like the absolute highest altitude, biggest picture, and then they get really, really tactical by the end of the document, right? So this document itself is both a framework that you could use to focus your own ideas, and it's also a set of tools and tricks, right? So it's kind of a double dip here. So first, let's go into the vision. This fake game that I was kind of helping establish the design vision for was called Motorcycles, Uzis, and Katanas. You'll see it referenced throughout the rest of this doc as MUK. So MUK is just the code name for this non-existent game. Setting up the vision for MUK, the original pitch, the request from the founder was, hey, I want to do a battle royale with swords and motorcycles and guns, right? Very high speed. So help me justify and figure out a lens to think about that kind of a game, right? And so as a consultant, I came in and said, okay, this is how I would do it, right? First, declare something about the genre that has something to do with the marketplace, right? So Battle Royale is kind of at a crossroads. Players still like the Battle Royale format, but the level of emergent storytelling, chaotic systems, and like, oh my God moments are becoming less and less. And the match length continues to be off-putting. No one wants to play a half-hour Battle Royale match. We see that trend going to tighter match length loops with more frequent in and out of the game because both streamers and normal players are time constrained. I tried to declare a high level vision here. So MUK is about momentum. The entire feel of the game should be about speed. The movement should be fast. The kills should come fast, and the matches are started and won fast, right? So just lean in as the key value of this game is speed. And then the goal with kind of whatever this first version is, whether this is a vertical slice or a playable demo or a prototype, the target here is to prove that you can get that hands-on feeling of speed infused into a battle royale, right? That's the big question mark. Is this thesis going to hold water, right? Is the concept of a motorcycle, sword, and gun battle royale, does it make any sense? And so that's what the goal of the kind of first prototype should be. Second segment we're going to go down into is, or how I like to approach it, is to dive into the landscape, right? And so in the landscape, I like to do what's called a design teardown. And this is where you get your core design team. So your engineers, your narrative people, your 3D artists, everyone who's going to be contributing to the actual fabrication of the game. And you do what I call digging in the crates, right? And so that's borrowing a lot from this pretty old now book, Steal Like an Artist. This is that concept of like, true new ideas don't really exist. Everything is like a refactor of an existing idea through a different lens, right? You can make something feel fresh, even though prior art probably does exist. So in this case, the design teardown that we're going to do is collectively as a team, go in and play a bunch of things that are kind of adjacent and around this space, right? So we're going to play battle royales. We're going to play Apex and Fortnite and COD Warzone and PUBG. And the things that we're trying to look for and the things that we want to discuss as a team are pressure dynamics, zone dynamics, power curve escalation. Like, what are the things that make a BR a good BR versus a bad BR, right? And then, so just play a lot of games of these, right? You have to do all your homework. Second thing is, because of the nature of this imaginary game, we're going to play a bunch of stylish action and fast action games, right? So look into things like The Finals, RIP, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Neon White, other games that have really inventive movement patterns, really interesting traversal and pathing, games where the AI that you're playing against Not AI as in the LLM nonsense, but actual old school game AI, the bots you kill. Make sure that they do something interesting and there's something compelling there. And then looking for things like dramatic and chaotic moments in these games. So again, grab the whole team, put, a couple hours in against each of these titles and really start to think about what do these things do well, what do these things not do well, what do I want to cherry pick from, and what do I want to avoid. And then also get into and play through a bunch of arcade racers and vehicle combat, right? So Rocket Racing, Forza, Destruction Stars. This is kind of a deep cut, but has a lot of things that are interesting to this actual game. And Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 really has that good sense of momentum, right? So we're looking for goods and bads around handling. How do they reflect a sense of speed? And then how do they do map architecture, right? And how is that like a typical racing map is this really long infinite thing with some maybe some branches or maybe some stuff. If it's a racing game, it's typically some kind of a loop. How does that stuff translate to a potential battle royale, right? Can you do a linear battle royale where the people at the back of the race die? I don't know. That's a thing we could explore. And then once we have all the homework done and the team has dug in the crates and we pick out and have all of our things that we like and don't like about these different things, we try to distill that stuff down into what I call razors, right? And so razors help focus your team so that when you all are working on a piece of code or a prototype or a piece of art and any of the different things that the different contributors are working on, you use these razors kind of as guiding principles, right? So the team needs to collectively dial in on the razors. These differ from the game pillars, which the game pillars lean a little bit towards genre and they lean a little bit towards what kind of game you're trying to make. The razors are really about helping you make a decision. So these are what you're going to use to measure each different design system that you bring up in development, right? So an example razor here is momentum is key, maintain the speed. So if you're ever saying, should I do X or should I do Y in my game? This is a razor that helps you say, well, which one makes the game feel faster, right? So if you're looking at, I want to add, an weapon upgrade mechanic, and I want to do it mid game so my guns get stronger. There's a very clear angle there to say like stopping to pick upgrades for a gun does not make you feel faster. So do you do that between rounds? Do you set that stuff up outside of the game loop so that you never take away from the speed? Razor number two. In this game, we want to be fast and deadly to win. So this game should value both speed and lethality equally, right? So if you're putting up a feature or you're making an aspect of the game that only values speed and that making someone drive faster and race better ensures them the win. How do you balance that and make a trade-off with also with lethality, right? So how do you punish somebody who avoids combat? Or if somebody is only doing combat, how do you make them fall behind so that you're not being fast enough, right? Like how do you make them thread that needle between speed and lethality? And again, this is just, it's not giving you an idea, but whenever you have an idea, compare it against the different razors to see if it stands up. And then, razor number three, this is just another example. Never gate power with spend or progression, right? So one of the things that I was, significantly in conflict with in Call of Duty was the people who have played 200 hours have stronger guns than the people who've played 10 hours. And so that means progression is gating power. Therefore, whoever's been playing 10 hours a day since launch day is inevitably a stronger player. And I think that is divisive to the player base. So it's something that in this game I wanted to avoid, right? Also pay for power, right? Just you shouldn't be able to buy extra ability in some kind of competitive game. If this is a single player narrative game and someone wants to buy the, founders pack and it gives them a better shotgun to start, as long as this is not competitive, great. But in this case, it's a battle royale. You can't have the people who've spent more money have an innate advantage, right? It'll erode trust in your overall game. It will make people say, I feel at a disadvantage because I didn't spend the money. Therefore, I don't trust you to create a fair competitive environment for me. And then razor number four, in this exact case, the idea was we really wanted to make this game super streamable. And so there's just this note here about remembering there's always an audience. Not super relevant for you guys. Okay, and then we get into the approach. And so the approach that I like to use here is when you think about your game, I like to apply several different mental models to it to help me come up with and find the shape of my game, right? Um, the first one that I like to think about at the very highest level and get some agreement across the team who's going to be making this game, and especially any kind of key stakeholders you have, if you have any kind of investors or something like that, you need to make sure you're aligned on this, right? And so, what do I mean by this? I'm going to share this document out with you guys, so you'll have the links here. But these are anytime you see a link up in the right here, it's some big research document that you can go read to understand. But essentially, these foundations of play are competition, chance, immersion, and simulation, right? It's really important to get your entire team aligned on the why does this game exist? Is it there to be a nice distraction and let people feel expressive in a world? Is it to completely have them get into a flow state so that they lose, the sense of outside reality? Is this more of a high stakes, make a big bet? Just it doesn't necessarily need to be gambling, but roguelikes are really interesting in that you don't know what you're going to roll for your next round, right? And that chance brings a sense of interest and long-term engagement around the game. Or is this really about competition, right? Like, does your game exist so that player A can stunt all over players B through Z? If so, get everybody on your team aligned on which of these is most important or what mixture of these is most important. Second thing I like to do is now that you have a kind of good sense of what kind of game you're trying to make, run through what's called an MDA, a framework analysis, right? So this helps, again, refine consensus across the team to like get on the same page about what you're making. I've seen so many small teams where the engineer thinks they're making uh, this slight variation of Rust, and this other team, the creative team, thinks that it needs to be, uh, you know, complete MMO fantasy driven, and everyone's thinking about little parts and they overlap a little bit, but building understanding and consensus earlier on will help you make a clearer hit at what you're trying to make. And so the MDA analysis, this Northwest University paper by these three game designers, this is really interesting, super, super academic, but essentially MDA is cutting a game up into three columns here, right? The mechanics of the game, the dynamics of the game, and the aesthetics. Aesthetics not in the, uh, you know, Gen Z version of aesthetic, but this is the what are the tactile and experiential parts of the game and what things are important, right? So mechanics. In this game, we're talking about things like how far can you shoot? If it's a very long distance shooting game, this becomes a PUBG sniper fest. If it's only short range and everything has fall off, that changes the feel of the game. Bullet trajectory, ammo systems, health and shields. What are the driving physics? Is it super arcadey? Is it super Gran Turismo-y? How do you handle people eliminating or coming back to life, right? What's your blue shell system here for newer players to not feel like they've completely lost right off the rip? And the dynamics are really where the mechanics and the players interact, right? So that's expressions of skillful driving, making smart choices as a player between when do I use range combat versus melee combat. How aggressive or pacifist can I be and still be successful in this game? These are all dynamic questions around a battle royale. And then for the aesthetics, what I like to do is just all of them are always important, but it's important to prioritize this list, right? So in this case for MUK, the sensation of speed and the challenge should be very high. Those are high priority aesthetics that we should worry about. Expression, self-expression, fulfilling the motorcycle ninja fantasy, yeah, maybe. Fellowship with other teammates. This is probably more of a murder spree game. So these are kind of medium. Details about the lore and the narrative, discovery of like secret paths or hidden areas in the world, and just giving yourself over to the flow of the game. These are very low priority for this game and specifically. Now you can run literally any game out there through these things and generate an MDA analysis about a game. If you have a really nice game that you're loosely basing your game on, or you're like, I want to be that game, but this way, try to do an MDA analysis about that game that you really like. And I think it's pretty insightful. And most importantly, it gets you talking with your other collaborators. And then finally, this is my model that I call the inside out model. This is about figuring out what you work on first, what you work on second, and what you work on third, right? Because one of the things when you're just like looking at a game engine and you're saying like, I literally could build any part of this right now. How do you give yourself like an ordered list of how to start? And so the inside out model for me exists in three layers, and you build them from the inside out. And so the first layer is what I call the toy, and the toy is the actual moment to moment, hands on stick, hands on wheel, hands on mouse kind of feel of the game, right? And I cut it into two different sections. One I call lean forward, one I call lean back. Lean forward is the like literally while the player is like leaning towards their screen, hyper focused on what they're doing, and lean back is kind of like while I'm shooting the shit on Discord or I'm looking through my inventories, that kinds of stuff. So the toy that I would, to build MUK, the toy that I would get working first is get the core elements of driving and combat down, right? It has to be fun to accelerate, brake, take a turn, swing a sword, fire a gun. Those things have to be fun and have to feel good. So that should be the number one thing you start trying to build first. Everything else that you're going to see in the next two layers is easily second. So while you might come up with a great idea for a progression system, cool, capture it, stick it on the list, mark it down for the future layers, right? Come back to that later. But if you don't get the toy feeling good, you don't have a heart of your game, right? And so that's like, one of the things that I really liked, one of the reasons I went to and joined Respawn is that they were really, really good about the toy, right? Like moving, sliding, wall running, reloading, firing, ADSing felt super, super tight in Titanfall 2. And they really, really perfected and shined that little toy aspect up. I would have gone and done any quest that they asked me to do because it felt so good to just do those things, right? So they have, some really sharp designers and developers there that are good at making the toy good. The second order of things that is what I like to call the session, and this is things that support the player's engagement from when they click open on the game to when they quit to desktop, right? So that this is about a game session, right? So these are the things that you would build to facilitate an engaging game session, right? If this was a single player narrative game, this would be a lot of things about like saving, having moments to reflect. I finished a very hard boss. Now I'm going to like take a breather, right? That's where your session begins and ends. But for this game, MUK, this is about how do you become the last alive? How do you do it with style? And then in the lean back, let me look at my recent placements. Did I go up or down in a skill division? Am I working on my dailies or my weeklies, right? That's a frequent pattern in battle royales. And then the final step is, and so you see here, once you have this toy working, then you can build on top of it and build this next layer to get your session in a good shape. And then the third layer order here, is what I call the hobby. And this is like why people play the first 10 hours and then that turns into 100 hours and that turns into 1,000 hours, right? And these are really the things that are the long-term sticky engagement, right? So like competition and combat mastery for this game, socializing and challenges. If you're a streamer, how does that integrate with your chat? Things like that. Again, for this game, it was kind of streamer focused. So then what I like to do is after I kind of gather and rake all these different things and these features into different piles, there's also can be tons of them, right? I'm giving you just a handful, but like you'll probably have 15 things in each of these little rings of like aspects of the game that you need to design and develop. Then I like to put all the things that I'm thinking I need to make, I like to say, are they first order, second order, or third order, right? So is it part of the toy? Give it a 1. Is it part of the session? Give it a 2. Is it part of the hobby? Give it a 3, right? And this helps you, if you end up having a producer on your team, they love this exercise because all of a sudden they can build a really nice Jira flow that says like, this feels like we could probably get it done in 6 months, right? So this is starting to facilitate that translation of a real loosey-goosey kind of like design idea into executable pieces, right? Because now you know what order to do them in. And then additional system considerations. This is just always have an extras bucket where you can say like, these are also things we're going to have to talk about at some time. For a game like this, matchmaking is a huge thing to figure out and undertake. So just don't, while it might matchmaking doesn't fit neatly on your inside out model. It is something that you definitely need to be able to speak to. And then this is when I like to do what I call hit the gym. And hit the gym is just like it says. You're building little gyms in your engine with your assets as best as you can get. So in this case, I would build a vehicular movement gym where it's just a big open map with a couple different vehicles. You can get in, drive around, start to fine tune your physics, start to fine tune your blur effects or your particle effects and things like that, separate and aside and outside from the other aspects of the game. Just get the vehicles feeling good, right? Get multiplayer working in it so that you and another teammate can race each other and find elements of some just simple game loops to go in and play test. Then build a ranged weaponry gym where you can go in and pick up all the different guns. Your 3D modeler can go in and swap the guns out outside of the aspect of the game. They can just build a bench of sick guns and they can get the sounds tied up. They can get the particle effects tied up. You can even tune the damage numbers well in advance of having the whole game kind of pulled together. And then the last one was like melee weaponry because swords are involved in this. That's a very different thing than guns. So make a special area where you can go in and just sword fight. And then finally, some things around the BR, right? So fine tuning ring pressure, fine tuning like anti-stall mechanics. There's a lot of things that you have to do when people are starting to play test your BR. And so through the development of your game, you're going to have these gyms and these will all evolve. And these are going to be the systems that you pull together into making one final game. The reason I like being able to do this in the gym is this supports pivots in your design, right? You may get through this part and just say, swords suck. Fucking let's cut swords, right? Cool. Now you have just ignore the melee weaponry gym, and the other three are now the interplay of the dynamics of what you're going to be building on your game, right? Or you might say, we need another one because we've come up with this whole extra system that we thought of. And eventually what you'll end up with is a couple different playtest environments. So I like to push this fast, right? This is stuff that once you've play tested all your games and you have your stuff thought through, start prototyping as quick as possible. So go grab simple assets. Don't wait around for a final 3D artist to get all the textures perfect. Go use the various marketplaces for the basic stuff, right? It doesn't need to look like your sick final cyberpunk bike. Just grab any motorcycle and make it work. And then start replacing the assets in the gym as you go. So once the important part is to find that it's fun. For anyone who's kind of seen any real early concepts of a game, right? The white untextured worlds that people build to get their games done, it's still fun. It looks like shit, but it's fun. And that's the thing that you're really looking for as a designer, right? Is tuning up for like maximum fun and then creating the skeleton that all those other creative assets can come in to make it look amazing. But the fun part is fun no matter what, right? Even in low poly with no animation cycles, it should still be fun. So yeah, take all the things you learned from the gym, build a test map one, which is just like one playable loop of your game. And whatever you have playable in test map one, that's the prototype. That's what you're going to convince somebody, hey, to give me a publishing deal, or hey, give me angel funding, or hey, I'm a VC and I'm interested in your studio. That thing is really that's the proof that you have that your idea is good and that you can make something fun. And then additionally, I just added this extra exercise here. Like if I wanted to do, as a designer, I wanted to do deep dives on each of the different aspects. A deep dive on melee combat might be determining, is it worth the risk to try and get close to secure a high damage hit? Is melee more of a last ditch effort, or is it a risk reward decision? Does melee end up being an anti-AI mob tool, or is it a primary kill vector against other players? That starts the creative process around like, oh, I want shorter weaponry and I want longer weaponry, right? And so if I was in this cyber ninja kind of environment, I would look at all the different kinds of Japanese swords and their different lengths, and I would give them some trade-offs, right? So create some personality in those different weapons. The longer swords are heavier and slower, but deal higher damage. Maybe they give, because this is a motorcycle game, shunt is really important. You want to be able to push people into oncoming obstacles and things like that. So the Tonto would not give much shunt. The Odachi would give a lot of shunt. Cool little systems you can play with and experiment with those in the prototype, in the gym. Then dial in your balance through playtest. One thing you'll always, hear from me if you say is playtesting is the heart of game development. You playtest as often as you can with as many people as you can, and you learn and listen and watch and record, right? Playtesting is where uh, design and theory actually gets synthesized into something real, right? If you're not playtesting on a regular cadence and you're not getting new builds on a regular cadence, very early on, if with a very small team, I would say you want to playtest at least weekly. As the game gets more developed in, you're probably going to want to get to like 3 to 5 days a week of a collective focused playtest exercise. And then for this case, I was saying we should build everything in blueprints first before we bother using uh, high optimized C code, because you'll be able to prove out the fun just with a scripting language rather than going in and doing it hardcore. Do that stuff later. Yeah, and so Jim's great.